I remember a time in my life when I found myself always looking for more. No matter what I had, I felt like it wasn't enough. I always wanted something bigger, something better, and no matter how hard I worked, I was never truly content. But Allah, in His infinite wisdom, showed me something that would change my perspective forever. And it all began with a simple lesson in gratitude. It was a quiet morning in the small town of Al-Qusair, a place where the call to prayer echoed through the narrow streets and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and fried flatbreads filled the air. I was in my early 20s, just finishing university, and I felt like I had everything to prove. I wanted success, recognition, and more wealth to show for the long hours I'd spent studying. My parents, humble but proud, ran a small grocery store on the corner of our street. We weren't rich, but we had enough to get by. Despite that, I often felt ashamed when I looked at my friends, who seemed to be climbing the ladder of success much faster than I was. One evening, I sat with my father, who had a reputation for being patient and calm, regardless of life's challenges. We sat in the small courtyard of our house, drinking tea, the sky tinged with the colors of sunset. I complained about how I had yet to find a good job, how my friends had already found success while I felt left behind. My father, with his wise eyes that always seemed to see straight through to my soul, turned to me and said something I would never forget. "My son, don't chase after success. Chase after contentment. The wealth of the heart is far more valuable than gold." I didn't understand what he meant at the time, but his words lingered in my mind. A week later, I had the chance to visit a local charity organization with some of my university colleagues. The organization was dedicated to providing food, clothing, and support to the poor, many of whom lived on the outskirts of our town in makeshift homes. As I entered the charity's compound, I saw families, parents, children, the elderly, all struggling with the basics of life. Some were ill, others were disabled, and many were simply struggling to survive. I met a man named Abdul Rahman who had been volunteering at the charity for years. He was a simple man in his 40s with a heart as big as the ocean. He invited me to join him as we served food to the families who arrived. As we handed out meals, Abdul Rahman shared stories of some of the people we were helping. One woman, a widow with 4 children, had been without work for months after her husband passed away. Another man, whose house had been destroyed in a flood, had nowhere to go. And yet, despite their hardships, they smiled, thanked Allah for what little they had, and held on to their faith. Abdul Rahman looked at me and smiled. "These people have so little, but they give so much," he said. "They have learned to find contentment in Allah's will. And you, my friend, have been blessed with so much. Why not start by being thankful for it?" It was in that moment that something shifted inside me. I began to realize that I had been so focused on what I didn't have, I had never taken the time to appreciate what I did have. The following days were a quiet reflection on what Abdul Rahman had said. I started looking at my life differently. I began to see my small home as a place of warmth, my parents as a source of guidance, and my health as a gift from Allah. I began to practice gratitude regularly, not just in moments of ease, but in the face of hardship as well. I'd wake up early before Fajr and thank Allah for another day of life. During my prayers, I would reflect on the countless blessings He had given me, my family, my education, my safety, and the community around me. I even started keeping a gratitude journal where I would write down 3 things I was thankful for every day. Some days were easy. I'd write about my health, my friends, or a good meal. But on other days when life seemed hard, I'd write about the simple things, the sound of the call to prayer, the smile of a stranger, the warmth of my mother's embrace. As I practiced gratitude, I felt a sense of peace begin to settle in my heart. My desire for material wealth started to fade. I wasn't as concerned about keeping up with my friends. I began to focus on my connection with Allah and the things that truly mattered. As weeks passed, I noticed small but significant changes in my life. My relationships with my family improved. I spent more time with my parents, learning from their wisdom and helping them with the store. I also became more patient with myself and others, realizing that life wasn't a race but a journey. One day I received a job offer from a company I had applied to months earlier. It was the kind of position I had been hoping for, one that aligned with my passions and offered a good salary. But instead of feeling the rush of excitement I thought I would, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. I had learned that success wasn't about accumulating wealth or status. It was about finding peace and purpose in whatever Allah had decreed. Sitting in my room one evening, reflecting on my journey, I realized just how much I had grown. My heart was no longer burdened by desires for things I couldn't have. Instead, it was full of thankfulness for everything I had been blessed with. I finally understood my father's words, chase after contentment, and as I sat there, I made a vow to myself and to Allah that I would never take my blessings for granted again. Whether in good times or bad, I would always find something to be thankful for, knowing that true contentment comes not from what we have, but from the way we perceive it with gratitude in our hearts. This story, my friends, is not just mine. It is the story of every one of us who has been blessed with the bounty of Allah. Gratitude is a key to happiness. It may seem like a small thing, but when practiced sincerely, it transforms lives. May Allah grant us the ability to always be grateful, for in gratitude lies peace, contentment, and true success.